Thank you so much for having me here this morning, and I'm going to just jump right in. I'm going to take you on a 10-year journey in 60 minutes, so buckle up your seatbelts. Behind the dumpster, addicted to heroin, arrested, homeless. That's where I found my son. That was 10 years ago. And like every parent, when I got the phone call that my son, who was living in Detroit at the time, was in this situation, it completely blew me away. Nobody ever expects to get a phone call that their kid is in that kind of trouble. I had snippets and hints that there was something wrong in his life, but I had no idea to the extent what it meant to have a heroin addiction and all the stuff that goes with it. I just thought like it was something they just kind of handled with like a cold. And when I found out that he was homeless, living behind a dumpster, it blew me away. And I did what every parent would do when I got that information. I jumped on a plane, flew to Detroit. I was going to rescue my son. That's what dads do, right? We fix it. And I worked through the court system. I worked with an attorney who was a good family friend up in Detroit. And I negotiated to have my son transplanted to Phoenix, where I thought all he needed was the love and encouragement and a change of venue. A little family love and a little change of venue would fix everything. And boy, I found out the hard way how wrong I was, how much I had to learn. And the journey that I went through as a parent is really no different than any other parent who's in that similar spot. We have relapse, we have arrests, there's bouts with homelessness. My son had a couple of near overdoses. There's those experiences with theft and deception. And the heartache of just knowing that no matter what I did, I couldn't seem to figure out a way to inspire, coach, love, encourage, help my son navigate this chaos that was his heroin addiction. And it seemed like the more I tried, the worse it got. And the worse it got, the more I tried. So I was in my own downward spiral to try to save my son. And with every failure, with every setback, with every negative adverse experience, I took it upon myself that there was something wrong with me that I couldn't fix him. And it had a huge effect on everything in my life. My business suffered, my relationship suffered, my relationship with my wife suffered. I started to hole up. I wouldn't socialize as much, and I hope that you see just from my general personality, I'm a rather social guy. So for me to hole up and not socialize is a huge life-changing experience. It got to the point where I would even get up in the morning and realize how messed up my life was that I'd start to pray for a heart attack just to escape the chaos in my life. That's broken. That's beat down. I was there. And I had a significant event one night. Whenever my son would go missing, because he did live with us on and off at times, we would experiment with that. Of course, it didn't always work out. And then he would somehow disappear on the streets and wonder where he is. We wouldn't see him for a couple days, and that was really disruptive as well, just the chaos of that, the fear and that comes with that. And I basically had this moment in my life where, I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would go out on the front porch and I would sit down and I would look up at the sky and I'd say two prayers. The first prayer was, wherever my son is, please bring him home safe. If he doesn't come home safe, at least watch over him. And then the second prayer was, help me get through this. And I would do this for the better part of a year and a half, that wake up in the middle of the night from a dead sleep and realize that my life is just in shambles. And this one night I was out on the porch and said that prayer, and I just had this moment, this aha moment. It was like, okay, Dave, how many times are you going to pray this prayer before something changes? Well, what am I supposed to do? I don't know, but doing the same thing over and over again isn't going to change anything. And I came to the harsh reality right then and there that I can't change the situation in my son's life, but I can change where I am in mine. Thank God for that moment, because it's put me on a road that just is why I'm here today. And the road that it put me on was I started to think, okay, so dude, what are you going to do for yourself? So, well, I don't know, but I know I need to get out of this funk. And I really enjoy riding my bike. So I started to challenge myself to think of things relating to better health, better energy, more things along those lines. And then also too, kind of like the executive coach in me, I problem solve from a really high level strategy or intellectual thing. So, please don't poke fun of the depth of my thought, but I go, okay, how do I create an environment for myself where I'm strong for my son when he's present, but even stronger for me when he's not? And the second challenge was, how do I facilitate an experience for me where I put myself in the shoes that I'm trying to put my son in? Here we are encouraging my son, who's been 2 or 3 years in active addiction to heroin. We're asking him to consider a life where he gives up this thing for the rest of his life when he can't even envision doing it for a day. Yet I'm telling him he can do it. Can I do something for the rest of my life? Can I give something up for the rest of my life? I don't know. I've never tried it. It's kind of like an unrealistic expectation if I don't know what it's like to do that. So I challenged myself to ride my bike for an hour a day for 100 consecutive days. When I thought about doing it 30 days, I thought I have the willpower and the fortitude and the guts that I can ride my bike for 30 days. I was, well, hey, how about 60? I was, well, dude, you can do 60. How about 100? Now you're talking. Can you ride your bike 100 days in a row for at least an hour without missing, skipping? If you get an injury, you got to figure it out. Navigate the chaos of life and ride your bike for an hour a day. I said, I don't know. There it is. There's the challenge. So I took on my own recovery challenge. Here's what happened. I got on my bike the next day and I rode. I rode for an hour a day for 100 consecutive days. And on April 9th, 2011, 2,360 miles later, is it there?
We're ready.
Sweet, thank you. I crossed the finish line. And the cool thing is my son, even though he was still struggling with where he was on his journey, my son even rode with me for the last 4 miles. And it was awesome. It was a great experience. And I did it. I crossed this finish line and I was like in an entirely different place. Because every day, every one of those bike rides wasn't about physical health. It wasn't about, necessarily, like the challenge in itself. It was the experience of being in the moment, of taking care of me, of making a shift in me that I knew I needed to make. And I would write down, I would journal quotes and thoughts and all this stuff. And after 100 days, how I viewed the situation with my son and how I viewed myself in it was an entirely different experience. And I got off that bike and I was so proud. My son and I, we high-fived each other. I gave him a hug and told him how awesome it was that he shared this moment with me. And then I said to him, I just want to let you know that I can't be involved in your recovery anymore. And he looked at me and says, that's cool, Dad. Now I can focus on it. What a punch in the face. But what a statement. What a statement. Now I can focus on what I was expecting that he had already focused on it. No, I was so busy doing his recovery for him, I was doing the work. Why did he have to do the work? Somebody was doing it for him. And so the reason I have this picture on here is that this is a real important picture. This is my journey today with my son. This is the journey that we encourage parents to take with their children. There's 2 paths there. There's the path my son is on, there's a nice space of grass between it, and there's the path I'm on. Doesn't mean that I can't walk this journey out with my son, but I need to learn how to stay in my lane. I need to learn to stay out of his lane so that he can navigate his life. And that's where I started. That's where I started this journey, 7 years ago after I crossed the finish line, was how do I grow into being a better dad and understanding the things that I need to understand about his journey and his struggles and his experiences. And it was awesome. I've learned so much. I've read books and given talks and met with parents groups. I've gone all around the country riding my bike and connect with people on the street and on the highways and in the middle of Oklahoma and the middle of Missouri, and had really powerful talks about their experiences either as a parent with a child or a brother with a sister or a kid with a parent, and we talk about their journey, their recovery stories and their addiction stories. And I've just learned so much about this. And that's why in the introduction, we talked about the gift of the experience. It's the most painful experience of my life, seeing my son struggle. It's the most difficult, challenging, and painful experience of my life. But the work that has been done, that I've gone through, has taught me so much about love and patience and addiction and pain and hope, that I'm excited and inspired to be able to share this with you today, because it's not easy, it's not fun, it can be terrifying, it can be frustrating, but it can also be an incredibly powerful opportunity for you and for those around you based on how you go into it. So I want to share with you just a little bit about that for the rest of this talk. For almost 5 years after I did this bike ride, I was growing into this lesson of understanding substance use disorder. Loved every minute of it. And for a guy who was like a C student all through high school and college to say I love my learning journey, it's a big shift. I read more books in the last 7 years than I have in the first 53 years of my life. And I love the conversations I have with people. But of course, my background is sales, so a guy who loves to talk to people, that would be a natural for me. But so that was the first shift, was the bike ride, and all that emanated from that. And then about 2.5 years ago, as I was coaching parents, I started to pay attention to some questions I was asking them. And I said to them, tell me where you are emotionally. Give me some words to describe where you are emotionally. And, we had a lot of other words that were up there, but the words that were just universal, there were 5 words that just showed up on every conversation. I'm angry, I'm afraid, I'm frustrated, I'm disappointed, I'm worried. Those words sink in for a minute. I'm angry, I'm afraid, I'm frustrated, I'm disappointed, I'm worried. Oh man, I hear myself in those words. Even though I'm on this awesome, amazing journey, I could still go, oh, Dave, you are there. You're in this journey with these people. And I had a real aha moment there. Angry at them, disappointed in them, frustrated with them, afraid about them, worried about them. Wow. Only one of those words is sheer concern for the child. The other 4 is all about me. I was making my son's addiction all about me. I was frustrated. I couldn't believe, why can't he do the things that I'm encouraging him to do? That's frustrating. I'm disappointed. Look at his life. It's a wreck. And even though I'm on this growth journey, why can't he follow me? Why can't I inspire him? Even though there's this healthy distance, I'm pissed, I'm angry. It's like, man, you're messing up your life. Don't you know how much we love you? Don't know how much we care for you? Don't know how much you're ruining your life and putting things where they are? That's all outbound negative energy, and I'm bringing that emotion into this conversation of hope to my son. Really? He's not hearing that. He's hearing my anger, my frustration, my disappointment, my fear. And I said, you know what? It's time to make my son's addiction about him. I'm going to worry about him. I'm going to come to my conversations with him out of a sheer love and concern for where he is in his journey. Sheer love and concern. And all that other garbage that I'm bringing forward, my fear, my anger, all that, I'm going to kill it. I need to get control. I need to recognize when my toxicity is showing up in his situation, because it's not helping anything. He's already got enough toxicity in his situation. Here he is. He's not celebrating his life. He knows where he is. He hates it. He just can't figure out a way to navigate out of it. The last thing he needs is dad beating him up. What he needs is a dad is going to stand there and find a way to encourage him out of it in a way that he hears a message of hope. He hears the message of love. That was hard, because from that point on, it was all about him, not all about me. And I'll give you a really good example. something that maybe you can see yourself in. It's kind of like when my son would show up, say, sometimes I'd see him say, "How you doing?" "Good." "What's going on?" "Nothing." His clothes are tattered, and he kind of smells a little stinky of the street. And you can tell that he's not quite right in his physical presence. And you leave it right there. "What do you want to talk about?" I don't really say it like that, but that's what it was. Whatever he wanted to talk to me about at that moment, I was in the moment of letting him do that. The old questions would be, where are you at with your recovery? Got a job? How's things going with your PO? Who's that for, him or me? Yeah. He doesn't need to connect with Dad to report on where he is, on his progress or lack of progress in his life. If he wants to report that, he will. Sometimes he does, and sometimes he wanted me to believe his lies. And I did. The reason I allowed him to tell me his lies is because if I did something else, I was hitting him with my judgment, criticism, and condemnation for where he was. I wasn't going to do that to him. That's what we spent a lot of time with parents, is encouraging that whole thing, is that let's move from a place where we will focus on what we have to what they need. So instead of being the dad that I thought that I desired to be, instead being the dad he needed me to be. I was going to change the conversation, change how I talked with him, change how I interfaced with him, change the environment that I set up for him. But then the back piece of it is change the conversation in my head, how I talk to myself about the situation, change the conversation that I'm having with my wife and his brothers and sisters about the situation. Because I wanted to completely change his experience with his family in such a way that he realized that there was a road home. It's prodigal son-ish. Knowing that there's a road home gives them hope. When we cut them off, when we close the door, when we kick them out, if we do it in anger, if we do it in frustration, what they're experiencing is this possible experience that, oh, now I've really done it. The one person that could love me the most has given up on me. And here we're dealing with a mind that's corrupted by addiction, struggling to find hope in their life or a belief that they can change it in a positive way. And we've done something to reinforce that it's only going to get worse, instead of reinforcing the fact that it's possible for it to get better. So I said, change the conversation. We're going to do things differently. And I put it under a gigantic umbrella that I call selfless listening. Selfless listening in and of itself is a very specific behavior that I do workshops on about listening. But when we focus on selfless listening as a global behavior, what it's doing is that we're meeting our children from a place of love and acceptance. Loving them and accepting them for who they are, where they are. It's unconditional love. Conditional love is, I will only hang out with you if you're not high. You can only come over and have dinner if you're not high or not using. You can't come over until you've gone to recovery. That's conditional love. Love and acceptance is letting them know, hey, if you want to hang out with us for a while, knock yourself out. Would love to see you. Love to see you, spend time with you. Acceptance is, yep, as a dad, I would love to see my kids in a different place, whether they're struggling in their marriage or they're having a challenge with their job or they're dealing with substance use disorder. Of course, I want my kid to be in a different place, but I'm not going to cut them off if they're not where I desire them to be. I'm going to be the guy that says, create a safe place for them to share where they are in the hopes that maybe we can navigate this together, the two-road picture. Because there's a space in there for me to walk alongside with him if he asks me. If I cut him off, there is no space. He's here, I'm here, we're separated from each other in an unhealthy way. And then the last piece of this is in our conversations, getting rid of judgment, criticism, and condemnation. They don't need that from us. They're already doing it to themselves enough. We do it to ourselves enough. How many of you people looked in the mirror this morning and said something about the clothes you're wearing, the weight you're carrying, or the hair you're combing? All right? Judgment, criticism, and condemnation. It flies freely in this world. Do you think our kids need more of it? No, they need less of it. And they need it from the one person that they need it from the most, mom and dad. So that's what selfless listening is all about. It's creating this environment for my son to be safe with who he is, where he is. Even if he doesn't share, the more he experiences that, the more likely it is that he might find, this opportunity to navigate this space with dad, with mom, or at least give us an honest, authentic update. This is how I see parenting today. Sorry, my goal is not to be judgment. Remember I said judgment, no judgment, criticism, and condemnation. Sorry, this is Dave's judgment picture. But this is what I see in so many parents today, is that we're so busy telling our kids what we want, what we expect, what we desire, where they're falling down, where they're failing, where they're not doing enough, where they could do more. I was there. I still go there sometimes. But the key thing to look at this is not look at the parent behavior, look at the child's reaction. Look at their response to these behaviors. Shut down, distant, disconnected, uninvolved. And then we wonder why our kids aren't listening to us. They're not listening to us because we're not connecting with them where they are. We're connecting them with where we are. That's selfless listening, connecting with them where they are. I make it a harsh term so we really recognize. I call this selfish telling. We're so busy making it about us that we're selfish about it. I've had experiences where, where somebody will say, whatever you do in the morning, first thing in the morning, don't talk to me till I have my coffee. Oh, some of you guys have said that, or I've heard it. Okay, got it. When somebody comes and hits you up and says, hey, what did I tell you about my coffee? I know, but this is important. What they've done is they've told you, selfishly, that what they want is more important than what you asked for. That's selfish telling. And that's what we do. And it's what and I want you to hear in this is that I'm being hard on me, so if you're hearing me be hard on you or on parents, that's not the point. These are unintentional behaviors. These are behaviors that we've inherited through our parents in some respects, a lot of respects. I know I see a lot of my dad in me, and my dad and I have a difficult relationship. Boy, that's really funny, huh? I see a lot of my mom in me, and there's things that my mom does that just drives me crazy. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm them. I was never going to be them until I was. But that's the point. This is that we do these things without awareness. This is not to call you guys, hey, you guys are all being selfish, knock it off. It's like, do you guys realize where you're being selfish? And what the opportunity is to do something different. So let's go back, because I'm sure that whenever I give this talk, it's funny, I used to give this talk a lot, and the first question when I got done, people would say, well, isn't this a little bit about enabling? It's like, first of all, you want to set Dave off, just bring up one of those buzzword keywords, tough love, detachment, self-care, enabling. I hate those words, okay? Because what those are, and I just want to be really clear, what those are is those are things that we're telling parents that they have to do, and they don't even know what it means. And so we throw them around like candy. Yet it's those are the decisions and choices that we make in navigating the chaos with our kids is through structured thought. It's through love. It's through organizing ourselves emotionally and physically, psychologically, and spiritually to the point where we have a good sense of what we would like to do and how we're going to do it. And we'll talk about that in a second. But to throw out and say, yeah, well, it sounds to me like you're enabling. Well, thank you for that judgment. I appreciate that. What you need to do is just practice tough love. Sure, I'll kick them out. I'm not ready. That's not who I am. Yeah, but you need to do that. I get it. It worked for you for whatever reason. Maybe it worked for you by accident. Maybe you got lucky. So when we play buzzword bingo on those words, it sets me off because it's not helping anybody navigate where they are. Practicing selfless listening is something we can do with moms and dads in the rooms as we're talking about the struggles in their journeys. Selfish telling is throwing them an answer. So anyway, that's my little lecture on that. So I apologize, this is a 2-hour workshop in one slide. Just like I told you, we're going to do 10 years in an hour, we're going to do 2 hours in about 30 seconds. So what I do with parents when we're navigating this discussion of how I'm going to respond from a place of selfless listening, there's 2 huge steps. One of the first steps is actually spending some time with me. Me as a dad, spending time alone and say with my, I usually do this with mom and dads, and I say, go away, don't do this exercise with me, we'll review it together. But it's, what I will do, what I won't do, what I desire, and what I won't tolerate. Okay, this is a buzzword you can use. This is healthy boundaries. But healthy boundaries means that we spent time actually truly, honestly identifying them. We write them down. We know what they are by design, not by accident. So these healthy boundaries is just that. What I will do. Son, I will be happy to drive you to a meeting, if that's what you need. I'll be happy to drive you to work if it will help. I am not going to call you up and remind you have to go to a meeting. It's your problem. It's your deal. I am not going to allow you to steal from me. It isn't going to happen. What I desire is I desire for an opportunity for us to find a way to navigate the journey that you're looking for in your life to help you find what you're looking for. That's what I'll do. That's what I desire. I want you to be happy. And I don't know what that looks like because you need to define that. And what I won't tolerate, and you already used one of them, is what I won't tolerate is I won't tolerate you stealing from me anymore. And then the next piece is that you go through it. Every parent has a lifetime of experiences, even if their experience or journey with their son's addiction or daughter's addiction is only 6 months. It seems like a lifetime worth of experiences. We all have the same ones, but they're personal to us when we experience them. So you make a list of all these experiences, and then you go, okay, in the past, how have I reacted to them? What did I do? And then the next step is, in this age of enlightenment, where I've structured my healthy boundaries, how am I going to respond? Notice the word is respond instead of react. It's more organized. It's more logical. And you create a game plan. And then the third step is, in a moment of peace and clarity, because we do have those with our children. My best ones were when my son spent 30 days in jail and he get out, and then he has a whole litany of things that he's going to do, which is great. But then it's a great opportunity for me to share with him some of the things that I've thought about while he was in jail. And I share with him some of my rules, some of my guidelines. And, I use this example, a lot of times because it was one that I know I said and I know it worked. One time my son borrowed my debit card, loaned himself $100 that he wasn't going to pay back, and then snuck the card back in a couple days later. I realized I was $100 short, and the bank's like, oh, dang it, he did it again. And I didn't yell and scream at him. I didn't pitch a fit. I didn't do anything. But a couple days later, he ended up going to jail, and he got out, and I sat down with him when he was all nice and clean and relaxed and looking for a favor from Dad. And I said, hey, about that credit card, steal from me again, I'm calling the police. I won't tolerate that. It was 6 years ago. I've never had an incident of theft with my son again. Coincidence? Maybe. But my son knew very clearly what I said to him because of the way I said it, when I said it, and how my commitment to enforcing it. So this works, but this requires work. It requires us spending time on ourselves away from the chaos to deal with it. That's one of the things is that we're always in this fight. We're always in this battle. How do I do this? How do I do that? Oh, problem solving. Well, I'm in the middle of the battle. How many people solve stuff in the middle of the battle? You never do. We always say step back, take a breath, count to 10, think, go through the thought process, and then come up with an action plan. That's the same thing with anything that we need to do as a parent, was we need to do the work. Away from the chaos. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but I just want to, this is the activity of selfless listening. Listening to learn, which creates awareness of a situation. Learning to understand, which helps give you some sort of empathy. You get a feel for what the problem is. The thing is that those first two things, there's no magic in it, really, in the word quotes magic, because that's stuff that we do with just about anybody. We kind of like, hey, how you doing? Good, man, what's going on? Simple stuff. How's your weekend? Oh, it's great. Went to a football game, And, there might be some problem solving there, but we're not going to trust people with our deep, dark stuff. Yeah, my wife kicked me out this weekend. Why? Well, I got drunk, and we're not going to tell that to anybody, right? But we might tell it to somebody that we trust. So that next level of learning is just that. To know. Wow. Now what we have is we have context. And when people are in that area, what they've done is they've gone over the chasm and they've gone down, they go into this deep, dark stuff. And the reason I call it context is because they realize, the more they realize that they're safe with you, the more they're going to share with you the information that they haven't shared with you in the past. So you get this much bigger picture. Instead of just the problem, you get all these other things that have funneled in that are all part of the problem. And that just doesn't happen with anybody. It happens with people who are trusted, where you are safe. Think of your best friends, the people that you would tell your deepest, darkest, dirtiest secrets. There's only a handful of them. And think of why you would do that. Because you're safe with them. You know you can trust them. Yet we want our kids to tell us everything. Really? What do the kids usually say? I mean, if I told my dad, he'd be so pissed. If I told my mom, she'd freak out. Okay, there's some things that kids will never, ever imagining telling their kids. But the truth of the matter is there's so many things that they would love to tell their parents. But the reason that they can't is they just don't think they're going to be safe with it. So they don't tell them. And then we wonder why we get these stories of struggles in school and sadly things like suicide and drug abuse and stuff like that, because kids are in pain and they didn't know where to go to deal with it. So selfless listening, man, is huge. Let's talk a little bit about selfless listening again as a kind of a quick review. It's practicing love and acceptance. Meeting your children where they are for who they are. In fact, you could do that with anybody. Do it with coworkers. Do it with your people at church. Do it with your neighbor. The idiot neighbor. Okay? The one with the dog that barks in the middle of the night. Drives you crazy. Or comes home and makes all sorts of noise at 2 a.m. when he gets back from the bar or something like that. There's something going on in that life. We don't know what it is. But we're going to sit in this place and judge them and go, that guy's a moron. No, he's not. He's a human being. He's dealing with something. You don't know what it is. Love him first. Accept him second. See if there's an opportunity to get to know him better. Maybe you're the person who can change their life. But you can't know to do that if you're beating up on them verbally, psychologically. The next one is looking at that whole notion of, change. Well, I'm going to go out of order because I'm just getting these as I can remember them. But it's the whole notion of change. Nothing changes until you do. Nothing changes until you do. So if you're unhappy with where you are in life, change it. If you're unhappy with what somebody is doing with you in life, change how you respond to them, how you interact with them. If you're unhappy with where your children are in their journey, find a way to understand what's getting in their way. We already know what's getting in your way. They're not where you want them to be. Well, that's an easy answer. Good. Then understand what's getting in their way that's preventing them from going there. Which shifts us to the next one, is it's not about you. I get it. I mean, I have goals, dreams, and aspirations for my kids. They're 38, 35, and 30. None of them did what I thought they would do. Boy, was I a failure as a parent. They're awesome. They're amazing. They're gifted. They're talented. They're celebrating life in powerful ways. So who screwed up? Didn't they get the memo? No, they learned to live their life. Should I be disappointed because they're not where I think they need to be? Nah. Should be happy that they're living the life that they decide to be. It's not about me. Celebrate where they are for who they are. The next thing is that we talked a little bit about healthy boundaries, but practice those healthy boundaries. Learn to understand what they are. Identify them, embrace them, allow them to become part of your life. So hard. It was so hard. I just got to tell you is that when my son would come over, and he would, a lot of times he would come over on Saturday afternoon. It was like such a pattern and a habit. And we wouldn't hear from him from a week or 2 weeks, but then he decided, it's time to stop by and see Mom and Dad. He'd show up and I'd be so happy to see him, but at first I would temper my enthusiasm. But what he was doing was he was checking in with us. There were, always, hear parents say to me, he says, yeah, isn't it great your kid come? No, they just want money. Did they ask for money out of the gate, or did they, after you tried to kick them out, did they say, I'll leave, but can I have money? It's usually the latter. They're just showing up, say, hey, I'm here. I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm cold. Can I come in? I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm cold. I miss you guys. Can I come in? No, you're high. So my son would come in, he'd come over on Saturday afternoon and think, yeah, this is difficult. What he was doing was he was coming over to watch football with me. We had something of a connection. We love going to football games. My kids, I've brainwashed them. They're passionate about a football team. I'm not going there because somebody will respond with their rival. But it's like, once I became real with it, it's like, Dad, my life is messed up. Can I still connect with you on a level that something is normal? Dude, come in. Let's watch football together. And in watching football, we talk football. And then in talking football, we talk about whatever he wants to talk about. In talking about whatever he wants to talk about, he realizes that he's safe. Now, he may never, and he often didn't, share with me where he's living, what he's doing, how's it going. But it didn't matter. We were connecting. We were communicating. He was experiencing Dad's love for him. So that's that whole thing about just understanding where you are. And then, the other thing is that the whole notion of recovery. I mean, recovery is, again, probably a little bit of a generic term. It means a lot of things to a lot of people. But recovery for me is doing the hard work on yourself, to release from where you are to getting to where you desire to be. It's introspective. It's releasing. It's doing some doing some ugly, deep, dark work on yourself. And we want our children to go into recovery, but we don't do recovery on ourselves. I don't know about you, but I can't teach anybody to do something that I haven't figured out how to do myself. So Mom and Dad, if you haven't gone into your recovery program and done the hard work on yourself, you're cheating your child. You're also cheating yourself, but if you really want to help your child, then the commitment is I'm going to change who I am or understand who I am so that I can be that resource to my kid and understand what they're working on. So I guess the contrast picture is that I showed you what parenting looks like when we're selfishly telling. To me, this is parenting when we're selflessly listening. When we're engaged, we've created this safe place for our kids to just experience our pure love for them. And allow ourselves to trust that love, because nothing's more powerful. You think about, whether it's you want to embrace the scriptural notion or not, but perfect love casts out all fear. The opposite of fear is love. The opposite of love is fear. If we're doing things from a place of fear, we can't be doing it from a place of love. So the message that I always share with parents is that please, 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 trust in your love for your child. Operate from that space first, and you will navigate everything else in a more healthy way. And it'll look, that's a little Disneyland, a little Hollywoodish, but it'll look like that. So my promise to you is that this statement, and this is so true, is that once I stopped telling and started listening, everything changed. Now, I started doing this, really started focusing on this 2.5 years ago. Truthfully, I focused on it when I was in sales, selfless listening. That's how I became a great relationship builder in sales. I didn't ever think to use it in my personal life. Because isn't that the idea? You have your business persona and you have your family persona. And then I found out that they're all the same. Your persona is your persona, and you use your gifts and your talents equally with everybody. Well, I didn't understand that. But 2.5 years ago, once I started listening, instead of telling, everything changed. And a perfect example of this experience and change with my son was just as recently as a year ago, he had started living with us again. You guys are all probably wondering, how's his son doing, right? How many want to know? It's going to be your first question. Okay. 2 years in long-term recovery. He's done amazing work on himself. And it's all because he's done some amazing work on himself. And I will tell you is that selfless listening isn't the reason he's done this. But I will tell you is that what's enabled us to heal our relationship as he's going through this long-term recovery journey, it's all because of the fact that we're communicating on an entirely different level in an entirely different way. He was living with us, and there were a couple days in a row where he started sleeping in later and later each morning. And it started to trigger me because usually sleeping in more and more, those were indicators that a relapse was on the horizon. So I got a little worried, got concerned, I got afraid. So one morning I got pissed off. Knocked on the door, barged on the door and said, "It's time to get up." And then left the room. He got up. He didn't say a word to me. And a couple days later, it took a couple days. A couple days later, he came back around and he said, "Dad, the other day when you got up and charged into my room, were you worried or were you mad?" I said, "I was worried." He goes, "That's what I thought, but you expressed it as anger." And that's a sign of how you know selfless listening is working. When somebody can share with you what they're experiencing in your behaviors, in your words, and you can see yourself in your behavior and your words as they see them, so that you can change them. That's healing. That's when I knew my son and I were on an entire, because he never would have told me that, ever. So I'm going to leave you with one last thought here, and I appreciate you hanging in with me. When they told me I had an hour, this is like a gem. It's like an hour. I could talk for 2, but I'll keep it to 1. Faith is a big part of my journey, so I don't want people to get confused. But on this journey, I told you I'll read anything and study anything. Well, one of the things that I loved reading on this journey was a book about the I Ching. I don't know how many people ever heard the I Ching, but there was a thing in there about superior emotions and inferior emotions. And inferior emotions are the emotions of fear, anger, doubt, worry. There's all these stress things. And the way they talked about it is that when you're in your inferior emotions, what you're doing is you're blocking the Creator's ability to provide you what you need. And you think about that, think about when you're in fear, anger, worry, whatever. It's like you're fighting through, like I can see myself in this journey hunkering down and say, "Oh yeah, another crappy day, I got to get through it." I got my hands clenched, I'm hunched over, and I'm just slugging through it. And nothing's working. Nothing's working because nothing can get in. I'm fighting everything, good and bad, blocking the Creator's ability to give me what I need. Superior emotions are love, joy, gentleness, detachment, peace. Holy moly. Love, joy, detachment, gentleness, peace, hope. What does this look like? I'm opened up my hands. I'm here to accept and receive what the world has to offer me to help me navigate the chaos of my life. Isn't that beautiful? So as you go through your journey, whether you're a mom or you're a dad or you're a peer counselor helping people navigate this chaos, help shift them from hunkering down for the fight to help them recognize that the opportunity is to trust in your love that you've been blessed with for others and for your children to navigate this chaos so that you can accept and receive what people and the world has to offer you to get through it. Thank you.